Hello, my dear friends. If you're over 90 like me, then I'd like to invite you to take a quiet moment and sit with me today. I have a story to share. In fact, I have seven regrets from someone who's now 90 years old. Looking back at life from the day I turned 70, they're not dramatic or fancy. They're simple, ordinary things. But sometimes those are the ones that leave the biggest marks in our hearts. These regrets aren't here to make you feel sad. They're shared in the hope that maybe, just maybe, you still have time to do things differently. In this video, I'll walk you through all 7 stories. Each one a lesson I wish I had learned earlier. Why I should have kept learning. Why I should have exercised just 20 minutes a day. Why saving money isn't always the best idea. And why saying I'm lonely isn't a weakness. You'll also hear about lost family, forgotten memories, and the biggest regret of all, living life too safely. If you've ever looked back and thought, I wish I had, then this video is for you. So please, stay with me until the end. Let's reflect together, not to dwell on the past, but to honor it and to shape what's still ahead. If this touches your heart, don't forget to like the video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. Your voice matters, and I'd love to hear it. Now let's begin. 7. You're never too old to learn something new. I wish I had believed that at 70. When I turned 70, I quietly decided that I had learned enough. No more reading new books, no more trying new skills, and certainly no more figuring out how to use all those buttons on the phone. I told myself, what's the point now? Let the young ones handle the learning. I've done my share. At the time, it felt reasonable. After all, I lived a full life, worked hard, raised a family, traveled a bit. I thought I had earned the right to simply rest. But looking back now, at 90, I see things very differently. You see, when I stopped learning, something inside me also started to slow down. Not just my memory, but my sense of curiosity, my spark, my connection to the world. It didn't happen all at once. It was subtle, like the slow fading of a song playing in the distance. I didn't notice it then, but over the years, the silence grew louder. I remember my grandson trying to teach me how to use a tablet. Grandpa, you can listen to music here, look at photos, even video call me. He said with that familiar excitement kids have when they think they've discovered magic. I smiled and nodded, but after a few failed attempts at swiping and tapping, I gave up. I'm too old for this, I said, chuckling. But deep down I felt frustrated, embarrassed even. That device, with its blinking icons and strange beeps, made me feel small, like a child again, but not in a good way. Now I know, that was the moment I should have kept going. Not because I needed to master the technology, but because my brain needed it. There's actually a lovely phrase a neuroscientist once said, the brain is like a muscle. If you don't use it, you lose it. It turns out it's true. Studies have shown that older adults who continue to learn, even something as simple as a new word each day, maintain sharper cognitive abilities and better emotional health than those who stop challenging themselves. But beyond science, let me speak from the heart. Learning brings joy, not grades or exams, but learning for the sake of wonder. I met a lady here at the care home last year. She's 85, and she's been learning to paint with watercolors. Her first paintings were clumsy, she said, but now her room is full of delicate flowers and dreamy landscapes. I feel alive when I paint, she told me one afternoon, her hands covered in pastel smudges. Another friend of mine picked up the ukulele at 78. He plays old love songs for the staff sometimes. And me? Well, I finally started using that tablet my grandson gave me. I listen to classical music, watch videos about history, and even started learning a bit of Spanish just for fun. You see, It's not about becoming an expert. It's about staying engaged. It's about waking up with something to look forward to, a new word, a new song, a new chapter. It's about giving your brain a reason to keep dancing. So if you're reading this and thinking, maybe it's too late for me, I beg you to reconsider. You're not too old. You're just out of practice. Start small. Pick up a puzzle. Ask your grandchild how to send an email. Try that hobby you always said you'd do one day. Because I've learned, later than I'd like to admit, that the mind craves movement, just like the body. And every new thing you try is like opening a little window to let the light in. At 70, I thought the best of my learning days were behind me. At 90, I know they were just beginning. 6, I thought missing a day of exercise was nothing. But missing 20 years, that was everything. At 70, I told myself, you've earned your rest. So I stopped going on walks, stopped stretching in the morning, stopped moving really. I didn't think it mattered. I still did the occasional gardening, still moved around the house. But now, at 90, I feel the cost of that decision in every step I take. My back is bent. My legs feel like paper. Sometimes, just walking from the bed to the bathroom leaves me short of breath. It didn't happen all at once, of course. It was slow, quiet, easy to ignore, until one day, I needed help getting our chair I used to spring up from. Looking back, I know exactly when it started. Around the time I turned 70. That's when I stopped going for my evening strolls. It started with a rainy week. Then it got cold. Then I got busy, though I can't tell you what with. And just like that, days turned to months, and months to years. The thing is, when you're in your 70s, you still feel like you have time. You think, I'll start again next week, or one more day of rest won't hurt. But rest became routine, and over time, my body, which once felt strong and steady, began to slow down. Science backs this up, by the way, though I learned it too late. After the age of 30, we lose muscle mass gradually. But after 70, that loss speeds up unless we actively fight it. Walking just 20 minutes a day can keep joints flexible, muscles strong, and even improve balance, something I dearly miss now. I remember watching an old friend, Mr. Tanaka, who lived 2 doors down from me. He was 82, always out walking in the mornings with his little dog. Slow but steady. I used to wave at him from the window and think, he's really disciplined. Now I think he was really smart. His legs were stronger, his mood better. Even when his memory started to fade a little, his body stayed dependable. And that gave him a kind of dignity I envy today. You see, exercise isn't just for athletes. It's for staying independent. It's for being able to get up on your own, reach for things, bend to tie your shoes, hold your grandchild without shaking. And more than that, it lifts your mood. Even a simple walk releases endorphins, those little happy chemicals that make you feel good. I didn't know that then. I just thought I was tired. I didn't realize not moving was making me more tired. These days I do what I can. Some light stretches in bed, arm circles, gentle leg lifts. It's not much, but it helps. The physical therapist tells me every little bit counts. I believe her, but I wish I had believed it at 70. I wish I had stuck to that 20-minute walk after dinner, or joined the Tai Chi class down the street, or simply made it a rule. Move every day, even if just a little. Not to stay young, that ship has sailed, but to stay free. So if you're reading this and you still have your strength, I say this with all the love in the world. Don't take it for granted. Your legs may carry you easily today, but they won't always, unless you give them a reason to. Walk, stretch, dance if you can. Do it for your future self. Do it so you can keep doing the little things without help. So you can live, not just exist. Because at 70, skipping exercise feels harmless. At 90, I now know it was one of my biggest regrets. 5. I saved so much for later that I forgot to live now. When I was in my 70s, I treated money like it was the most fragile thing in the world. I counted every coin, tracked every expense, and always asked myself, do I really need this before I bought anything? Especially if it was for me. A new coat? Too expensive. Dinner at a nice restaurant? Unnecessary. A weekend trip with my daughter? Maybe next time I'd say and stay home. I told myself I was being wise. Better safe than sorry, I thought. I believed saving was a form of love for my family, for my future self. And sure, being financially careful is a good thing. But somewhere along the way, I confused caution with self-denial. I became too frugal with my own joy. Now, at 90, I open drawers filled with carefully folded old clothes and worn-out shoes. I still have savings in the bank. Enough for emergencies, enough for care. But here's the twist. I can no longer travel, even if I wanted to. My knees ache. My energy is low. And some of the people I wanted to travel with are no longer here. Back then, I thought I was saving for later. But nobody told me that later might come with less strength, fewer chances, and more goodbyes. I remember one moment in particular. My daughter called to say she found a discounted cruise to Italy, a mother-daughter trip, just the two of us. I checked my bank account, frowned, and told her it wasn't the right time. Let's wait till next year. She was disappointed, but she didn't push. That was almost 20 years ago. We never went. Funny thing is, I can't even remember what I was trying to save for. A fear, an unknown, something I thought might go wrong. Psychologists say this kind of thinking is common among older people. We've lived through hard times. Some of us through war, through economic collapse, through years when every penny mattered. That fear never truly leaves us. Even when the world becomes a little safer, we learn to hold on tight to what we have just in case. But I wish someone had told me it's okay to let go sometimes, especially if it brings you joy, especially if it brings you connection. Because when you're 90, you realize that money doesn't hug you. It doesn't laugh with you. It doesn't sit across the table during a warm meal and tell you stories. Only people do that. Only experiences do that. And the chance to have them fades with time. I'm not saying we should spend carelessly. Of course not. But if I could go back to 70, I would buy the dress that made me feel beautiful. I would say yes to the holiday. I would order dessert. I would let myself have things, not just own things. I remember a woman at my community center, Clara. She was always well-dressed, even if her clothes weren't expensive. She went to concerts, ate out once a week, took art classes. Someone once asked her, "How can you afford all this?" She smiled and said, "I budget joy into my life." It's a line in the plan, just like rent and food. That stuck with me. Budget joy. It's too late for some things now. I accept that, but I still treat myself in small ways. A soft pair of slippers, a slice of cake without guilt, a new audiobook. And I tell my grandchildren, don't wait too long to enjoy your life. You don't need to be rich to live richly. So if you're like I was, always saying no to yourself, always saving for one day, I hope you hear this gently. You deserve joy now. You deserve warmth, comfort, and yes, even a little luxury. Not someday, but today. Because someday, your body may not cooperate. Your memory might fade. But the joy you allow yourself now, that stays. It becomes part of you, and no one can ever take it away. For we didn't speak for 18 years. Now I talk to her in my dreams. I had a younger sister. Her name was Mai. She was 5 years younger than me. Cheerful, stubborn, always humming some silly tune. We were close growing up. Not just close, inseparable. Like two halves of the same soul. But when I was 72, we had a falling out. Over what, you ask? Honestly, I don't even remember the full story now. Something small. A misunderstanding about a family gathering. A comment taken the wrong way. Voices were raised. I felt hurt. She felt hurt. We both waited for the other to apologize first. But no one ever did. And so, from 72 until now, I'm 90, we didn't say a single word to each other. No birthday wishes. No visits. Not even a call when her husband passed. I told myself, she knows where to find me if she wants to talk. And I suppose she told herself the same. Then, last year, I heard from my nephew that she had passed away. Just like that. No goodbye. No final conversation. No chance to say, I miss you. I sat in my chair that night, holding a photo of us as children, in matching dresses, laughing, arms around each other. And I wept like I hadn't in years. The kind of cry that starts deep in the bones, not just the chest. The kind of grief that doesn't come from death alone, but from regret. We wasted 18 years, nearly 2 decades. Not because of hate, but because of pride. I've spoken to others about this. I'm not the only one. In fact, according to psychologists, many elderly people carry unresolved family pain well into their final years. It's not because we don't care. It's often the opposite. We care so much, we don't know how to handle the hurt. And then time passes, and more time, until it becomes awkward, even impossible to break the silence. Or so we tell ourselves. But the truth is, every year we don't speak, the wall grows taller. And by the time I want to tear it down, the other person might be gone. You see, I thought I had time. I thought there would be a next Christmas, a next birthday, a moment when things would just fall back into place. But life doesn't work like that. People don't live forever. Relationships don't repair themselves. Sometimes all it takes is one phone call, one letter, one "I'm sorry," even if you're not sure who is more wrong. But I waited too long. Now, I speak to Mai in my dreams. I see her at the beach, where we used to go as kids. I tell her I miss her laugh. I tell her I was foolish. I tell her I never stopped loving her, even when I was silent. Maybe she hears me. I hope she does. To those reading this, if there's someone in your life you've been distant from, a sibling, a child, a friend, and your heart still carries them, don't wait. Don't let another year, another month, even another day go by in silence. Reaching out doesn't make you weak. It doesn't mean you were wrong. It simply means you value love more than pride. I lost 18 years. I lost the only person who knew what my childhood smelled like, who remembered her mother's voice, who could finish my stories because she lived them too. Don't lose yours. Pick up the phone, write the letter, knock on the door. Even if they don't respond, you'll know you tried. And that peace, that lightness, will stay with you. It may not erase the years lost, but it softens the edges. It opens a space in your heart where regret once lived. Because at the end of life, it's not just about who is right or wrong. It's about who is brave enough to love again. 3. I thought I'd remember everything. I used to believe my memory was a steel trap. Sharp, reliable, always ready. I didn't need to write things down or take too many photos. Because, of course, how could I forget the important moments? But now, at 90, I sit in my armchair with my great-granddaughter on my lap, and she asks, "Grandma, what did you and Grandpa do on your wedding day?" I pause. I remember the church bells, I think. A white dress. Someone dropped a plate at the reception. Or was that someone else's wedding? The truth is, the details are fading. Not just fading, disappearing like smoke. I have a drawer full of old photos, but so many are unlabeled. I look at a young man laughing on a picnic blanket. Was that my cousin Min or my first neighbor in the village? I can't tell anymore. My children ask, "Who is this, Mum?" And I just smile, embarrassed. Someone from a long time ago. And the stories, oh, the stories I could have told. The time I almost ran away from home at 16, convinced I was meant for the city lights. The night the entire village gathered to watch a movie on a white sheet hung between two trees. The song your grandfather used to hum when he thought no one was listening. They were my stories. They're my stories. But so many of them are slipping through the cracks now. Looking back, I wish I kept the journal. Not every day, just once a week, even once a month. A few lines about what I saw, who I met, what I felt. Not just the big events like weddings and funerals, but the small moments too. The smell of fresh mangoes, the first time I held my grandson's hand, the laughter of friends around a simple dinner. Scientists say that writing down memories, even just a few lines, helps us remember them longer. It's not just about preserving the past for others, but for ourselves. Keeping a journal, taking photos, recording short videos. These are not just hobbies for the young. They're treasures for the old. Imagine this. A box full of letters written to yourself. A photo album with captions like, "This was the day Ma and I got caught in the rain and laughed all the way home." A video of your garden in spring, with your voice talking softly in the background. That'll be my treasure chest now. Something to open on quiet afternoons, something to pass down to my children, and there's after them. But instead, I'm left with fragments. A flash of color here, a half-remembered scent there. I want to tell my great-grandchildren what life was like before smartphones, before air conditioning, before every meal was photographed. But I can't always find the words. Sometimes the memory is just gone. And so, I want to say this to you. Whether you're 60, 70, or 85, it's not too late to start recording your life. Write a letter to your younger self, or to your future great-grandchild. Describe your kitchen, your daily walk, your favorite teacup. Record your voice telling your favorite story. Take a photo of your hands. They've lived through so much. Put dates on everything, because one day, you might want to remember the sound of your own laugh. And trust me, your family will treasure these more than gold. They won't care if your handwriting is shaky. They won't mind if the photo is blurry. What matters is you, your heart, your thoughts, your voice, preserved like pressed flowers between the pages of time. I didn't do it in time, but maybe you still can. So write it down, say it out loud, take the picture, because memories, once gone, don't come back. But if you record them, they'll stay for you. And for the ones who will one day sit on your lap and ask, "Tell me about your life." And you'll have the answer right there, not just in your heart, but in your hands. 2. I pretended I was fine. It started around the time I turned 75. My husband had been gone for a few years. The children had their own families, busy lives, important jobs in other cities. I still had neighbors, old friends I could call, but I rarely did. I told myself I was fine. I cooked for one. I watched television alone. I swept the garden, fed the birds, and made tea as if someone else was coming. But no one came. And still, when my children called to check in, I smiled and said, "Everything's good here, don't worry." I didn't want to be a burden. I didn't want them to feel guilty or obligated. So I played the role, the strong, independent elder, the one who could handle it all, the one who never said, "I feel lonely." But the truth is, I wasn't strong. I was lonely. And over time, loneliness became my quiet companion. Always there, never leaving. It sat with me at breakfast. It followed me on walks. It even crept into bed with me at night. What I didn't know then is that loneliness isn't just a feeling. It's a condition, a quiet one. a dangerous one. Researchers at Harvard and Stanford have found that chronic loneliness in older adults can be as harmful to health as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. It weakens the immune system, raises the risk of heart disease, and is linked to cognitive decline. It even shortens life expectancy. But no one tells you this. No one tells you that silence can make you sick, that pretending to be okay can quietly eat away at your spirit. At first, I blame myself. Why do I feel like this? Why can't I just enjoy my peace and quiet? But loneliness isn't a weakness. It's part of being human. We are made to connect, to talk, to laugh, to share even the small, silly details of our day. I should have said something. To my daughter, when she asked how I was doing, I could have said, "Sweetheart, I miss hearing someone's voice in the house." To my neighbor, when we met at the gate, I could have asked, "Would you like to sit and have tea with me sometime?" To myself, I could have admitted, "I feel lonely, and that's okay." But I didn't. Instead, I put on a smile and got good at pretending. And you know what happens when you pretend for too long? People start to believe you don't need them. And then they stop reaching out. Not because they don't love you, but because they think you're fine. And so the silence deepens. Now, at 90, I've learned the hard way that asking for company is not weakness. It's wisdom. There's nothing shameful about saying, "Would you stay for a cup of tea?" Or "Can we talk for a bit?" Or even, "I'm feeling a bit lonely today." In fact, I've found that when I finally started admitting it, even gently, people were relieved. My granddaughter visits more often. My neighbor now brings flowers from her garden. A young volunteer from the community comes by once a week to chat, and I look forward to it more than I ever imagined. All it took was a moment of honesty. You don't need to shout it from the rooftops. Just a small truth, spoken from the heart, can open a door. And behind that door, connection waits. So if you're reading this, and you feel a quiet ache in your chest when the sun sets, if you find yourself turning up the volume on a TV just to fill the silence, if your teacup's sitting used in pairs, please don't keep it all inside. Say it, just once. "I feel a bit lonely today." And let the world answer. Because people care more than you think. They just need to know. And you, my friend, deserve not only to live, but to be seen, heard, and loved. Even at 75, especially at 90. 1. I played it too safe. While I look back at my life, there's one regret that sits heavier than all the others. It's not something I did. It's all the things I didn't do. I lived too safely. I always chose the well-lit path, never the winding one. I stuck to routines. I stayed in my comfort zone. I avoided risks. Not because I didn't want to live fully, but because I was always afraid of what might go wrong. I didn't travel far because I worried about my health. I didn't pick up a new hobby because I thought, "What if I'm not good at it?" I didn't love again after losing my husband because I feared judgment or heartbreak or both. And most of all, I didn't live for me. I lived for what was expected, for what was safe, for what was appropriate. And now, at 90, I realize that playing it safe has its own risks. Risks I never saw coming. No, I didn't break any bones. But I broke a promise to myself. The one that said I'd make the most of the time I was given. I think many of us, especially as we get older, start to shrink our world bit by bit. We stop trying new things. We stop dreaming big. We tell ourselves, "I'm too old for that now." But the truth is, that's just fear in disguise. And fear is sneaky. It wears the mask of logic, of responsibility, even of maturity. But it's still fear. I remember once, when I was about 73, my neighbor invited me to join her on a trip to Spain. A small group of seniors, she said. Nothing fancy, just good food, warm sun, and laughter. I said no. Why? I told myself it was the cost, the flight, the inconvenience. But really, I was afraid. Afraid I'd get tired. Afraid I wouldn't fit in. Afraid of the unknown. And so I stayed home. I watched her photos from the trip later. Her feet in the sand, a glass of wine in hand, a wide smile on her face. I smiled too, but deep down a little part of me whispered that could have been you. There's a saying I once read: ships are safest in the harbor. But that's not what ships are built for. We are the same. Our hearts, our minds, our souls. They're made for exploration, connection, and wonder. Not just in our youth, but always. Science supports this too. Psychologists say that trying new experiences, even small ones, stimulates the brain, keeps it younger, and strengthens emotional resilience. The older we get, the more important it is to stay curious, to keep living, not just existing. But beyond the science, here's what I've truly learned. No one looks back at 90 and says, I wish I'd been more careful. We say things like, I wish I'd danced even when I didn't know the steps. I wish I'd written that book, or at least started it. I wish I'd said yes more and worried less. Living too safely might protect you from mistakes, but it also protects you from joy. It shelters you from pain, yes, but also from the kind of memories that make you feel alive. So now, when my great-granddaughter hesitates to try something new, I tell her, go for it, even if it scares you, because fear is a part of life. But regret lasts longer. If I could speak to my 70-year-old self now, I'd say, take the trip, call a person, write the story, buy the dress, dance in the kitchen, fall in love again, live boldly, not because you're unafraid, but because time is too precious to waste standing still. And if you're reading this now, wondering if it's too late, I promise you it isn't. Whether you're 60, 70, 80, or even 90 like me, if there's something you still dream about, it means there's still time. Don't let fear take another year from you. Because the scariest thing isn't trying and failing. It's never trying at all.